Hey everyone, I'm a big fan of strange machines and whimsical modern contraptions. I'm a frequent viewer of the Slingshot channel and Tal Mouse. As a fan of both channels though, I'm going to show you something that you probably haven't seen before. This is a reproduction of the Chinese repeating crossbow. Tradition holds that the inventor Chu-ko-nu, made famous in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, a famous Chinese historical novel, first invented these. But historical examples have been found all the way up to the Spring and Autumn period, which is about the 3rd, 4th century BC in China. The service life of this weapon was pretty impressive. It served for almost 2,000 years. For example, there's accounts of it being used in the Sino-Japanese War of the 1890s, and potentially into the Warlord era, World War II, and perhaps even the Cultural Revolution. The fact this weapon was so widespread, especially in rural and peasant households, makes it difficult to get any definitive end date on when and if this weapon was ever finally put out of service. The fact this weapon was used from antiquity up through the modern era are testaments to its simplicity of construction and its robustness. The main advantage of this weapon is increased rate of fire relative to a single-shot crossbow, or even a single-shot firearm. The drawbacks, though, are its relative lack of power and accuracy. This weapon was very easy to use, though, so it was perfect for peasants defending a fixed position, like a city wall or an urban combat. Like the submachine gun, and later the Kalashnikov rifle, this weapon was a way for a less experienced fighter to fill the air with a large volume of projectiles. If you were a member of a city guard, for instance, looking to fight off a barbarian raid, where most of the barbarians would be unarmored targets, riding on horseback, then a volume of darts covered in poison, for instance, would have probably hit something. This particular design is being modified right now, which is why I've got it unstrung and the way this thing works is really cool, though. It's basically a lever-action design, well before the invention of gunpowder. First, you would load 10 to 15 bolts in through the top. Following this, though, all you need to do is move the lever forward and backwards, and this cocks and releases the string. Another bolt will drop down, and you repeat as necessary. As you can see, it's rather challenging to aim. You can't really see it from this angle, but there's a little peg down here that releases the string every time you cycle the lever. There have been many variations on this design over the last 2,000 years. For example, there were double crossbows, there were ones that could shoot multiple bolts by having multiple magazines. There were even like pump-action ones, but overall, this is the classic repeater crossbow. Now, there have been other attempts at repeating crossbows from different sources. There's the Roman polybolos, which is basically a repeating ballista using a chain drive. There's even a 1950s popular mechanics that had like a pump-action repeating crossbow. This one, though, is your classic Chinese repeater. It's popularly known as the Chu-ko-nu, I guess because of Age of Empires and other references, but it's often known by Junji Liang's name in China. That's largely due to the folklore surrounding him from the historical novel In the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. He was a historical figure of a lot of renown and probably invented a lot of really cool stuff, but in all likelihood, he most likely was not the guy who invented this in the first place. I plan to do a more in-depth video of this one later, where we actually get to test it out at the range. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed a little of the background behind one of my favorite historical weapons. I hope to see all of you at our next class, here.